This little wedge of cake was once part of a larger 9-inch round layer. So the first thing I want to do is cut off the curve to give this little piece of cake a flat base so that it can stand up on its own. And then I'm going to round off the corners. I've rolled out some chocolate fondant and I'm going to add this floral pattern to it with the texture mat. I'm going to flip the fondant over so that the texture will be on the outside, and in order for the fondant to stick to the cake I need to put some icing on it, and to make life easy I'm using a piping bag for that. Then you just bring the fondant up and over the cake and press it down on the back side. Then it's just a matter of pressing the fondant down around the cake. Looks like I could have used a little bit more width here in my strip of fondant to make sure that the ends match up, but if they don't match up perfectly it's no big deal because I have some flower shapes that I'm going to put on the ends. And it looks like I have a little bit extra on this end, so I'm just going to trim that off with my spatula. This opposite end isn't going to come together quite as well, but that's okay, I'll cover that up with a shape or something. And I just want to trim off the excess that's down along the back seam here. I'm going to mold a light brown band of fondant to go on the top of this little coin purse. Just remember, when you're using these molds you want to push the fondant into the cavity and then do your best to trim off as much of the excess as you can. It's ideal if the fondant is flush with the top of the mold. And then I'm going to use piping gel to attach it. And I'm going to put these light brown buttons on either end of the light brown strip of fondant that's on top of the coin purse. I have a couple of smaller buttons that I'm going to put on the front of the coin purse. I'll show you real quick how I molded the buttons. I just pushed a glob of fondant into the cavity and then used my spatula to level it off so that the fondant was flush with the top of the mold. And if the fondant got a little bit pushed around inside the cavity, I just take my shaping foam or my finger to smooth it out again, and these little guys usually just pop right out of the molds. I'm not happy with where there's a little gap in the seam right here, so I'm just going to take a really small piece of the chocolate fondant and patch it. Because the fondant's dark, it's not really going to be noticeable where it's patched. And then you just squirt a little bit of icing onto your cake board and stick the cake on. Don't forget to dust the whole thing in Super Pearl.